Okay. Another day. Real world echo. Need to see if I can do this. So try to download Arc browser, which has dark mode in it. Watched a few people use that, and it does seem to work. Oh. Arc is ready to update. Awesome. Let's just see. Minimal browser with dark mode would be good. Default Google. Is it mobile though? Let's do an experiment with a minute ago. Close it down for a second. This. Yeah. Pretty sure you can add advanced search settings, archive 12 hours. Pretty sure you can. Okay. Well, at least makes that a little better. That's okay. Okay. Floats. It's actually that I want to do. Oh, yeah. New drawing. There we go. Gonna be. I have to remember Geek, how you doing? Gee. Mojo, good morning. Change workflow. So, what I'm trying to do is too bad. Start a little probably this morning. Let's see if I can make you something. You can. you just got to stay motivated to do it. So just keep yourself focused and yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to use Akka for, and I'm talking about long run operations here, is kind of actually the description they give here. Um, what was it? I thought something yesterday and it kind of told me it was like exactly what I'm talking about here. So the challenge comes if I have a planning item record. Let's do that's the outbox for changes. So this actually probably is what I want. So oh, not there. There. JSON reformat. So here we have a changes object. Now I want to apply data to this. So the pipelines take the change and say, okay, well now let's enrich the object and publish out an actual change. So we get associated projects on the initial change model. So that's the outbox of that. Pipelines. That's the outbox. This is the outbox of the actual changes, I believe. Yeah. So if we go for we're not gonna know. Okay. So event ID identifier. Yeah, here we go. This is similar. That's probably a keyboard shortcut for that part. So the associated projects come in looking like this. It's GUIDs, right? And it calculates the pipelines, go and pull the extra data, and then produce an object that contains more information to allow you to understand, to take this change and understand, oh, it was this value, now it's this value, etc. The reason I'm doing it this way is because certain parts of the system, such as the display of changes, do need that data enriched. And rather than leave it to that part of the system to go and figure that out every time for itself, because if the view components were actually responsible for figuring that out, either when they consumed the message or they were doing it on the fly, then that data is not going to be accurate enough. Those things could have changed over time, so it's not going to read correctly. No, no. So what the pipeline is meant to do is go and take that object and enrich the object so that it's now ready for the rest of the system. It doesn't quite solve the problem necessarily if someone changes the value of that thing. Um, um, midstream, then you could potentially say it's the wrong value, but it is the ID that's set. So if someone was to change the planning project name mid flow and that got in there, then this would publish out the object with, some of the value there. But it would still agree here and here. Right? It's not harmful for that to happen. But the reason I chose to do it this way is the view is complicated enough, pulling all the data together from all the pieces of the system, doing all the display manipulation, etc. And it seems like too heavy a lift on the view side of things to make it do that either every time you go and ask for changes or at the time it consumes that, because it's got the same problem. If that data hasn't arrived yet, it doesn't have the information. So now we've got a problem in that we're putting long running processes in the view component. And this view component, the idea is that it captures the data, stores it, and then displays it, right? So the pipeline is aimed at enriching the value on the changes information. But one of those items, or more than one of those items, might not actually be available to this yet. So when this message is produced, this is because this system has consumed projects, it has consumed users, it has consumed um, um, uh, comments or associated projects, etc. Whatever has been associated. So what I need is a pattern that will allow me to do something like this. Okay, so a change comes in. Do we have the detail? So if it's a project, do we have this project? If we don't, then we need to wait, right? And now we're waiting on what, right? So we need to wait and for another change to come in for the other thing. And when that comes in, we need to say, okay, well, is this something that's pending? Yes, you are. Okay, send the next message. And then this will kick in. So all detail. So do I have everything I need? Right. So that's yes. Yes. Well, actually, hold on. That's not actually, is it? That is more all detail. So do I have all the details? No, then wait. So what I'm trying to figure out and what I've been trying to understand and get my head around for the last couple of weeks is this is a piece I've been procrastinating on very much so, is how do I effectively wait for this stuff, right? How do I say, okay, well, I need an associate project, and I need a right now. What else would there be? There's nothing really. Um, um, a user, right? So I need these two things. So how do I effectively write that workflow? So this would be a planning item change, say, which is great. It has an associate project, it has a user, etc. What I got to get my head around is how do I do that? So what I'm looking at is this hacker article, and really it's not too much in terms of how to do it. It's more how to think about it. Hey, hey, leave now. See the ball. Um, so the process manager responsible for shepherding along the workflow executor and culminating the final results at the end. Another cheap viewers. Twitch has introduced, it looks like a beta thing that asks me based upon its analysis if I need to introduce cheap viewer messages into the stream. Workflow executor, which is given a set of instructions from the process manager for querying asset data from a database and streaming each individual asset object through the evaluate actors, the data reader actor, the evaluator actor. A stateless worker that can compute the net present value of each asset based on its properties. It returns as a result to workflow executor as a stream, and the pricing actor responsible for making balance sheet calculations based on the difference. So it reads correctly. Like, this is the sort of stuff I want to do. Let's make sure I've got everything committed. What was this? When comments loaded, set the state of the store back to fulfill. Okay, let's push. 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 We got comments pretty much working, so close that version. Use this version. I've got Dark Reader installed in here now, so so the current code for pipelines works like this. There's oh yeah, because I don't use actors here for right now. So changes is probably the better one to look at for actors. So when I receive a planning item, I receive it into the process actor. So that's dealt with by planning item receiver. So I say, hey, tell the actors use the process actor. This will actually be a planning item eventually. Go and handle this. And what it does is it first checks to see, does it have this planning item? Sorry, I need to blow my nose again. So do I have this planning item? If this comes back null, it doesn't have it, then we go to the publish new actor. And what this does is checks again. The reason this checks again is this could be called out of sequence. This could be called for all manner of reasons. And if it's still not there, it goes and tells the sender, which is the process, hey, by the way, here's your event back. Right. So it's just passing the planning item integration event back to the process actor, saying, I actually don't have this, so you probably should check again. The reason being there is in the workflow where the process actor does this check and then sends it, this is likely to not fail, right? This is not likely. But if you change this up and say, okay, well, actually go in here, well, no, actually, it is likely to do this because if I get two events for the planning item, one after the other, what's going to happen? The way that the way that Acker schedules, this event is going to get received. The first event is going to get received. This is going to hand off to here. The next event might come in, but this hasn't finished doing its work yet. So it says, "Oh no, I don't have it." So I'm going to tell the publish new actor that this won't process until that first one's gone. So the first one comes in. Oh, I am null, so I'll proceed. I'll add the information to the system, and now I'll publish that the change event should happen, right? So I'll send another message and queue another event and tell that to do its thing. That second message now processes and goes, oh, actually the planning item is there. So let me go back and tell the parent, yep, I do actually have this planning item. So it'll requeue that message. What it could end up doing is ending up with out of sequence changes as such, because you could have 5 different planning item updates all queue through here, and the last one gets processed. So now, how do I draw that? I want to draw this. So let's say we have oh, I copied that one more than I thought I did. Event 1. Event 2. Event 3. Event 4. 5. And event 6. The first one goes to process. Process actor. And says, do I exist? It says, no, you don't exist. This then queues event 1 into the publish new actor, right? And it immediately turns around and event 2 gets sent in, right? And because this hasn't completed its work yet, it now sends event 2. right? But event 2 is waiting for event 1 to finish. So event 1 creates it, and event 2 is now coming there. And this can happen for all the other messages, by the way. Event 2 now says, "Oh, the planning item does exist. I don't actually want to do anything in here because I'm not creating it." So what this publish new does in that case is it pushes back to the process actor event 2, right? Now the others process and their updates happen, right? So you could have out sequence messages here. So event 3 comes along, and event 1 and event 1's been processed. We've got the thing. Event 3 comes in and it pushes event 3 into the update actor. Update actor. And now the update actor goes and pulls the planning item, still the same thing, because if we actually manage to get in here and something is removed this or whatever, again, if this is used out of sequence, then it needs to know it can update something, right? And we check the last updated on the event, right? So the reason being that all these events that are happening are coming from Kafka. They're going to come out in sequence that they happened, as far as I can control. So every single event contains the changes of its previous event, right? So event 1 might contain just it might actually be the create, the first event that published. Event 2 might change the assigned user. Event 3 might change the review date. Event 4 might add a project. Event 5 might add a requirement. Event 6 might have added a comment, right? So they all could contain something. So, but they'll all contain the state of the previous one, which means that if event 3 processes now, an update actor says, "Oh, what's changed?" They'll say, "Oh, well, this was new, so we don't need. There was no change there." But event 2 changed so that event will be captured when we do this publish new. So event 2, it added it set the review date. That's the change. So we publish out a review date change. If this happens so quickly that all of these messages get requeued, so event 2 gets here, event 3 gets here, event 4 gets here, and event 5 is the one that actually lands and gets processed, then event 5 is going to contain the review date change, the assigned user change, the assigned projects change, etc. And it's going to publish out one event. So if event 5 gets here, it's going to publish out one event that says, "This all happened, by the way." Now event 6 comes in and publishes another one, because just based on timing. But now event 2, 3, 4 all get processed again, and they don't matter, so they get ignored. So they go in here, their last updated date is greater than the last updated date that we've got captured, because we last captured event 5. We return and we just call it quits on that message, so we don't need to worry about it. When we get a change, we calculate the differences. And this is literally just taking the object and saying, okay, on the object, what properties actually changed? So this is all this code is doing. It's just giving us an object list, which results in this. So it gives us, okay, this is what the object looked like before, the attachments, the requirements, all these things. This is what they actually look like. And then we publish, if there are differences, we publish the differences, right? And then we capture that last event and update the planning item record in the data store to say, here's what it now looks like. So if an event now comes in that has it happened before, it'll just get ignored, and that's fine. So this is a workflow that I finally got my head around enough to understand with Akka how it's working. So you've got to kind of work in pieces here. But the problem is, so the pipeline right now functions a little differently. So the planning item, when we receive the change, right now it's just what is this doing differently? Process update, process addition. This is just dealing with the fact that it knows about the difference between created versus updated, so we can actually treat them differently if we need to. But process update will because process addition right now doesn't do anything because it doesn't have any. There's no actual changes, so this is actually unnecessary because an addition is just an addition, right? It might be that just doesn't get handled here at all. But an update does matter. So what this does is first goes and figures out what type of processor. We only have planning item right this second. And then I call processor.enhance. This is me actually trying to come up with a useful term for what this is doing. So it's enrich, enhance, applying the details. So in this enhance in the processor, in the planning item processor, what we do is we go through all those changes. And for each change, do we know how to resolve that thing? Right. So if it's an assigned user or an associated project, we can enrich the object. And then for each one of these, we resolve the enhanced changes, and then we add that detail in. So this is literally just creating a new version of the before and after, just with the values. So in this user change resolver, what we do is we go and say, ultimately, do we have the user, right, from the appropriate repository, which is the user repository, dependency injection here. If we have the user, then let's put their information on there. And now we create this new user info object and map it that way. But what if the user doesn't exist yet? What if the user's not in here yet? How do we handle that? And that's why I'm thinking of Akka, of creating some sort of process of, okay, well, actually, I can't resolve this information right now. So just go and wait. I'm not sure how I achieve this necessarily, this wait behavior. Because I need to persist this state. I need to say, okay, I'm processing this message, but what if another message comes in for the object, and then another message comes in for the object? Really? We're gonna eat soap. That's what we're gonna do, is it? You're an idiot. Love you, but you're an idiot. Well, that tasted good. That's, that was in a box again. Stop going in boxes. What? Come here. Come here. Ow. Come here. Come here. Come here. Up. Come on. Come on. There you go. Okay. Oh, now I've got a jealous dog as well as a cuddly dog. Hello. Get off. Oh, off my face. Okay. You two do not make work productive. And it's raining. You don't like going outside in the rain. Oh, you're coming saying hello now as well. Okay. You say hello. Hello, buddy. Hello. Hello. Oh dear. You okay, bud? Pulling my headphones out. Yeah. Um. Okay. You want rubs? Okay. You can kind of see him. He's flaking in and out, but yeah, you can kind of see him. You're going in and out of the camera because the camera's like, oh, I need to exclude this object. Your sister ate that soap because she just, yeah. Like in your rubs. This isn't being productive. And people just think I'm being weird if they're coming into the stream for the first time. He's just loving standing here, just taking a rub on his back. Okay, you good? Don't be chewing more stuff, dog. Okay. It's raining outside. Well, rather than inside. It's raining. And they don't like rain. They really don't like rain. So if I try and take them to go outside, they just stand at the door. So changes. So what I've got to figure out is with Akka, how can I process a sequence such that I can put a delay, and that's what I thought this would help me do, but it's not really going to help me understand how to achieve this. So again, they're taking the process manager responsible for shepherding along the workflow executor and culminating the final results at the end. But I don't know the timing of things. So how can I kind of lay dormant while I receive more information? Because if I don't have, and the biggest problem right now is I need to write this because I can't neglect it, but testing it is going to be difficult because I'm going to have to turn off certain pieces. Actually, it's not difficult. It's not difficult because I can easily do this. So the pipelines have receivers here, right? These receivers are actually receiving things like the user, the project, etc. He says with confidence as, how did I publish? Planning item associated project change resolver. Yes, okay. Actually, this is a bit easier to test than I even thought. So what I've done is I've created the projects as a data an ETL pipeline thing. So I've actually imported the projects, but I haven't actually done the work to receive the projects. That's something I need to track as well. But that does mean that I can actually test this, because what I can do is I can create a project to sign it in the UI and verify that this doesn't that this doesn't this does work when I get it to Akka. So, um, Anna Sarah, thank you very much for the follow, by the way. Apart from me getting distracted by dogs, if you have any questions about what I'm doing, if you'd like to know a little bit more or dig deeper, let me know. If there's anything specific I'm doing that is of interest, I'm happy to try and talk about it. Right now, I'm trying to learn a little bit more or get my head around how I'm going to approach kind of out of schedule events happening. So the original change event is going to be fine. That will publish all the time because it's a difference on the object. It's nothing to do with the data itself, which is why I broke it out from changes. So I don't delay changes, because things can be set to react. So if the assigned user changes, that is an event that should be published. And then things like the notifications pipelines, or notifications components rather, can be set to, so this receives the changes just the same way. Right now it's a one case piece of code, which is not ideal, but this can say, okay, well, this changed, this person cares about this entity changing. Even this is a little bit less not as rich as it needs to be, because ultimately this will do things like, okay, well, these people subscribe to knowing if this thing, if the review date changed, or if the assigned user changed, etc. So this can react to that. Yeah, this is a simplified version of this right now, because even this will be okay. What needs to who needs to know based upon what they subscribe to. Right now, it's just an object subscription. Um, so yeah, those changes are quick, and you can say, okay, well, if it you know, everything in there can be GUIDs, everything in there can be identified as, it doesn't need to be data, right? So that's okay to listen to changes, but the pipelines to enrich the data, and yes, this could cause a delay on showing on the client side. Let's run that up a second. So start everything up running. Start the client. Chrome. Well, that takes a while now, doesn't it? There you go. Okay. Nice. The past due. The two items we moved to August 29th yesterday, moved forward. So yeah, let's have a look. Changes. So, assign user on August 11th, we assigned user Jeffrey to Samantha, and on August 27th, we moved the review date. These are enriched changes, right? Because When the change is calculated, it just knows an ID. So this would go through pipeline. So if this wasn't running or this was backed up or something, yes, they wouldn't display here. But the data would, the point of the design of the system is that this data is still valid, right? This is the current state of the data, no matter what the changes show, because of this process, right? So the planning system, the planning item is captured. So what the data shows on the planning item is very likely irrelevant of the changes. Yes, it has gone through here. It's gone to view. So that could be delayed, I suppose. But the changes are independent. And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to make sure that I was not making the system beholden to the changes, maybe is the right word. I don't know. That changes are additional data. So what I got to figure out is, how do I do this? How do I do, if I can't resolve here, or I can resolve, you see, in here, one or more, right? Then what do I do? You know, how do I do a delay is my challenge. No. So let's do um hacker store state. Is that what I want? I don't know. No, I'm not watching a video. Hacker.net. So essentially what I'm wanting to do in some way, shape, or form, I suppose, is I want to basically say, do I have all the detail for this thing that I'm asking for? No, I don't. Then wait. When one of those things comes in, though, I need to reactivate that pipeline, right? So this current design of the pipeline receivers being here isn't going to be good, right? Um, unless I'm publishing changes on those things as well. So I'm going to have to modify. So changes right this second receives planning item. I'm going to have to create projects receiver. I'm going to have to create users receiver. Everything that can be changed in the system, I need to track and also produce a change stream for. Right now, changes do get published to one stream, so that's not a challenge. But then on this side, this changes receiver here is going to have to know, oh, you know, your right now is, you know, going is very much a planning item, but I'm gonna have to do the different change receivers in here. And they're gonna have to trigger the actors. Um, you know, do I don't know. I'm like struggling with. I guess I'm struggling with the amount of effort that I don't know. And I don't know how to prototype this properly. Um, so do, if I don't have all the information available, so I suppose step one is okay for for planning item, resolve all the information that's possible for it. If that comes back and says, yeah, it's resolved, then we can proceed and say, yep, we've got everything. Let's go ahead and go and gather that data. If it can't resolve something, then it has to say, okay, well, now wait until we get this piece of information. And that's kind of where I'm stuck. Do I say, hey, this piece of information triggers this message and it pulls the state back out? Or, what if another event comes in between? Do I discard the other one, resolve it again, and say wait, but then end up without a sequence? There's all sorts of things that can go wrong in this process. Is it an FSM? I don't know. So I do have. You could use states, say, right? Um, because its state could be, you know, pending. And the next job interview I do, I'm going to ask to see that legacy system. Oh dear, never going to happen. You having some challenges there? Everything online says just change the targeting framework. I mean, in theory, you can do that, but you can't rely upon any deprecated libraries. You can't rely upon any code features that have changed. You still need to do a very thorough regression test if you're changing from 4.5, 4.6 to 4.8 after so many years. Although, I mean, the users are the testers. Just upgrade it. 4.6.1 to 4.6.2 again. That's a safe. That would be a relatively safe jump. Hey, President Archer, how you doing? I'm doing good. I'm trying to drive myself crazy with state machines, I think. What did you find? Dogs. He de-squeaked a toy. I should have put it today. Nice. Nice. Besides state timeouts, FSM manages timers identified string names. Need to understand standard better. I don't know if I was supposed to use it for DI in framework or something like new service collection. No, .NET standard has nothing to do with DI. .NET standard is just a subset of framework that is compatible and has no um, um, has no, what's the word? No. Oh, he's sulking now. That's what I thought. But Stack Overflow stuff is like what is Microsoft Extension Dependency Injection for? So yeah. No, I forgot I did that. Project website. Really? Really Microsoft. You need to look deeply at. It doesn't allow links or anything it thinks are links. President not sure. So it's just put asterisks there for us. Not sure if that was a book. Nowhere else. So back in the framework days, there was a lot of dependency injection frameworks. You've seen a few of them: AutoFac, Ninjet, etc., etc., etc. Unity, Microsoft's Unity framework. Extensions dependency injection, I believe, was introduced because Microsoft, like similar to how Microsoft are introducing things like Mediator, and they're introducing other things now that are becoming core parts of the framework, so that people don't have to go out and get libraries to do some of the things that are very, very common in software development. You know, Not letting you get away with that. I have a lot of problems with bots, so people aren't able to just post links or anything it thinks is a link as per Twitch. So I apologize. I don't know, president of the show tried to either share something, but that Twitch thinks is. Um, from there you can dig in and get what you need. If you whisper me that link, president not sure it should let me see it and I can share it. But extensions dependency injection contains all the default behaviors and all the components for service collection. If that's a .NET standard thing, because I've only used it since using .NET Core, so if that's a .NET standard thing, then yeah, you'd probably be able to get into that world, and that would make your code more compatible with current versions. I'm so silly at times. What did you do wrong, Geek? I saw of the framework written on the page you were on. So please stop inserting my socials. But the problem is Microsoft have tried to do something good, right? It's not necessarily their fault. There is a framework, right? So the .NET framework is still a thing. It's just they can't call it framework anymore, because they've tried to shift their name but still keep .NET there. Um, so I mean, you've got 20 years worth of development. You've got to now, or rather, at that point, you've got 15 years worth of development, and you've got to now shift it to a new style of things so that it can be more, um, yeah, right. But they still use things like the framework. They still use the word because it is still a framework, right? Yeah. .NET Core is the transition period, and .NET 5 onwards is .NET, current modern .NET. But yeah. I couldn't sign into my local SQL server I set up on my lab box. I didn't use the password from the Docker command example. Ah, dear. Gotcha. That's what you're trying to link to before. Okay. Yeah. Rather not sure. I was just linking to that or help on. But so Mojo is working. Is building an application in old in framework, but it's actually on older versions of framework. He's not even able to get it from where he is because it's in a mix of 4.5 and 4.6 to get it up to 4.8 so we can use more .NET standard stuff. Yeah. That's actually something that confuses me. Did it go .NET 4.8.5 and core was temporary? Yeah. So .NET. So prior prior to the modern era, right? So Microsoft bought Xamarin, right? Xamarin used Mono to build the Xamarin Framework and all those things. So they used Mono, which was it's an implementation of .NET, right? Because .NET and C# are actually standards. The .NET framework is a standard, and you can implement it yourself. You don't have to follow. So what we call .NET, .NET 5, .NET 6, etc., is Microsoft's implementation of a standard. Same as C#. C# is you can actually build your own version of C# if you want to, if you can follow all the standards, right? So they're actually ISO standards, I think. So what Xamarin had done is taken a lot of work from the Novell time. So Miguel de Icaza worked at Novell, built Mono. Mono was an implementation of .NET that worked on, it's kind of an implementation that worked on Linux, etc. They used Mono to build Xamarin, and then Microsoft bought Xamarin and brought Miguel de Icaza into the fold to basically figure out the story for how do you get .NET to run true cross-platform, right? So they took all the lessons learned and they realized that they couldn't just take Mono and port it because it had its own issues. They couldn't take the .NET framework code and just port it. So they created this new version, this .NET Core, which was the core version that worked cross-platform. Right? So some of the APIs from framework were deprecated. That's why you end up with a new version of Entity Framework and all those things. So Miguel de Icaza kind of led the charge for Microsoft on building this next generation of .NET. Once that became stable and you had full cross-platform functionality, they they put it back into the labeling of the .NET life cycle. So they'd carried on developing .NET 4 or .NET Framework 4 at the same time, and now they got to the end of that, and now they can transition. So it's just the sorry, the history is quite fascinating. It's great that Microsoft chose to do that, and I think it's we're talking about companies getting rid of legacy code. Microsoft said, "Look, we know that framework can't go. Sorry, framework can't go much further. Let's make some steps," and they did that, right? And they made it functionally compatible for the most part, so you could transition. Sometimes taking a step back and learning basics makes everything else a lot more sense. Yeah. Well, it's the cost of doing what they've done, right? They've transitioned. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So even with ChatGPT, it will be verbose in my question say SP.NET MVC 5 on framework responds with .NET 6 code. Because that's all it, yeah. It's, I understand the frustration. Again, I think for your case, you'd be better to create a new .NET standard library and pull most of the code that you have into that library and build because you're going to introduce new and quirky bugs by introducing dependency injection and things like that into your code base. Yeah, Ninjet is not going to. Ninjet is going to give you some more challenges. Yeah. Now we moved. We used structure map at my last place heavily. Structure map is another framework. They were using Spring, which was another dependency injection framework, and it was XML based. Or it was XML driven. You could drive it in multiple ways, but they chose to use XML, and dependency injection was taking seconds on a lot of things, and yeah, get it working. Don't worry about the refinement. So, this is. I'm stuck with this. I genuinely am stuck. I'm not sure how to. Um, working is better than perfect. Build something, make it work, refactor, but make it work is the primary goal. And I realize that that's what gets most companies in trouble. Yeah, I still believe that. I just think they never took the step of make it better. Well, I'm thinking of things I want to add and it won't work as is now. Pick a feature, refactor the code to support the new feature, and then don't don't try and make it work for every single feature that you might want to add. Do one at a time. Yeah, I do believe that, Mojo. I just think that they never took the step of going back and cleaning it, and that's what most legacy code is, right? Most legacy code is they've done it quickly to get something to be a thing, but then never taken the time to tidy it up before they move on. I keep it really simple. Make a list of things I want and rethink it all. Yeah, if you overthink it and you start to get into like with this project, right? There's a bunch of things that I want to do. There's a bunch of things I need to do. I've not actually chased like this thing that I'm doing now, right? The pipeline stuff. I've done a version of this. This works, but it won't work, and I know it won't work for the longer term. So I could leave this alone and add into it for the next couple of weeks, and features will work, right? For the most part. But the moment it doesn't work, right? It just falls apart. So what have we found now? No. We don't eat straws, dog. No, stop eating plastics and paper. You've got plenty of toys to chew. Good boy. Good boy. Found a straw. If teams never have the time to go back and rework things, then arguably you need to plan for that and put in more effort up front now. So plan for the fact that you're not going to have time. I mean, there's a difference between if you understand what you're doing, then planning is necessary, absolutely, and making sure you put in the effort to make sure the code's at least clean. But yeah, absolutely. If you don't know what you're doing and you're building on the fly and exploring, I think you got to be prepared for that refactoring, but you don't know when that refactoring is necessary. I think if you're in a team, then the chances are that the things you want are understood. It's just how you get there. I don't know. Huh? How did my subs number go up but no one subscribed? Okay. Sure, but you're still responsible for trying to deal with that. Morning trap, by the way. Majo, thank you very much for the sub. It didn't tell me you subbed. Unless you didn't announce it. Ah. Okay, well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Twitch has in no way told me. I just saw the subscriber number change. Oh. So this process was as long as the information for the other things, and again, right now it's simplistic, as long as the other information has been received before the change gets hit, right? So it assumes the order of the system. I was mid-ads when I subbed on Twitch. It's like, you're going to finish watching these. You should be able to refresh at that point. Normally works. Um, I think this feels like there should be an easier way of doing this, and I'm just not seeing it. Like everything I'm thinking about, I mean, it's not exactly a simple thing I'm doing, but it just feels like I might be overcomplicating it, and I'm not seeing a simpler solution. I don't know why it's interesting. Start with, and start with. Awesome. The problem is many objects could have the dependency, right? I could have four um, four planning items sat there waiting to be processed as changes, all waiting for one username to come through or one project name to come through, etc. And in that instance, this can't proceed until all four of those planning items can't be published as changes until that happens. So I'm questioning: do I have enough knowledge of how Akka's working at this point to build that? I can get the other stuff working, that was okay. And I understand how that's doing that. But am I going to get my head around state machines or whatever other patterns are available to me to do this? Because it feels like it is a state machine of some form in terms of, okay, well, I'm waiting on data, um, or a saga in message bus. But how do I lay dormant those processes? How do again, it's data storage. It's not. Oh, we know one of them days with dogs. So I guess I'm just my goal for the stream. Sorry, I'm trying to do. Okay, so I don't know if you remember any of this stuff that I was doing. So when I when I change a planning item, I have one process that says, okay, what changed about the thing? So it does a quick diff on the object and says, okay, these IDs are different, publish the fact that this changed, right? The reason that is separate from this piece is because I want to be able to react to those things. Because it doesn't care I don't care what the data is, just that they changed. So this pipelines, as it's called right this second, basically is aimed at enriching that data and publishing out. So these are the events that come. So like associated projects, here's what it was before, here's what it is now, etc. This one is aimed at kind of applying, the information so that the other parts of the system that need to tell me about that can display that information. Sorry if I keep looking around. The dogs, one's behind me, one's outside, and they distract me. So I'm looking at doing this. The challenge comes in that if the system is not working perfectly, which I can now rely upon, this planning, this project might not have actually been updated in this part of the system yet. So I have to wait. So if I get a planning item and I don't have all the data available for it, I need to wait and say, okay, when that information becomes available, now we can publish the enriched change. I didn't want to do that in the view. The view would eventually get the data as well. I didn't want to do that in the view because it seemed like that was too heavy a lift on the view side of things, right? And I don't want to rely on what the current version of the view shows for the data. So I broke it out into this pipelines, as it was termed, just a foray name, nothing specific, but it basically transforms the data, right? So I'm trying to figure out how do I pause. So if I get a planning item and I don't have the project yet because it's not actually been updated, I actually don't have a receiver for the project. So this is one that would work. How to say, okay, hold on until you receive that process, and also persist restarts. So again, the reason I'm doing this outside of the view piece is because you might want a daily digest of what has changed and how it's changed, etc. So if I put that in the view, then I've got to pull all that information from the view. So this is a thing that will produce it. Sounds like whatever is responsible for dispatching the update needs to just be able to determine what is complete. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like, do I have all the detail? No, wait until I do have all the data. Otherwise, publish, right? This is roughly what I'm trying to do. That doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. But like if an associated project hasn't been made available, this needs to wait until it receives. So now when this information comes in, right? And there's two forms of information entering, right? There's the it doesn't exist. Well, no, in this instance, it doesn't exist. I don't actually have this information recorded yet in this system that's going to pull this data. The other form would be an actual change against this, which is not the same thing because it wouldn't affect this punning item change. That would be a separate. Oh, by the way, the project name changed. So anything that said it was on project A is now actually project B. That's a whole different challenge. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to get my head around. I'm just trying to. I mean, it feels like Akka would actually be a useful thing here, but I don't know if I understand Akka well enough to effectively do this. So, do I want to make that even harder? Because this system is going to be. This is one of the core components of the application so far, right? This is a big piece of what I want to achieve. So, I'm comfortable with how I got changes working with Akka. I understand that well enough to grow with that. But this piece scares me leaning into Akka because there's a lot I don't understand and I'm not sure I want to build that complexity. However, right now it's the only tool that I know of. Unless I'm just not. So if I persist this thing, just representing the workflow, but I don't. So I'm just trying to think through it and I'm trying to avoid just jumping straight into. Because I used Akka for the changes. It seems like a natural thing, but it's not. To me is more being able to say, hey, this thing checks for this and this thing checks for this and representing that workflow in quite a clean way. Oh no. But actually if I do this slightly different, what's your sister doing, bud? Hopefully not digging around in a mud pile. I'll be right back.
Sorry about that. I can only think of things in Erlang, and they have no choice but to use actors. So then you probably have an update manager that takes an update and it would store the update to persist storage. Nice message. I'm say I'm a dumb sometimes. I just changed my Google search show results up to 2018 and my life just became easier. Nice. Some of that is expensive or flow high. He's probably spin off worker processes based on something you could easily use. So I think a combination of those two. I think so. I think what I need to do is check to see if I have everything that this needs. Right. So right now it's broken down into this processor. The processor has for each type of thing that I need to resolve. Because if a change doesn't require enrichment, why bother? I don't need to do anything with it. It'll just add it in automatically. It'll just take what's in the current change and pass it forward. If it needs to resolve it, this is the case where it could be missing, right? So if this is empty, right, or rather this is empty, then I can't process this thing. So I need some way to validate, do I have everything I need? If I don't, then I need to um, store this event or this object or whatever I want to call it. Right, this event, this change. I need to store it and say, okay, wait for later. And then if one of those other pieces gets processed, right, I need to now reignite, restart this process. The problem is that, well, these two receiver projects actually would live together, I think. Right now I've broken out changes from actual data saving changes, but I think they get combined because I need to react to these. So if the user is received, and there will be a project receiver here, then I need to store the user and publish, or and then start up any things dependent upon that. So do I track? Do I basically, when I receive something, go through my list of paused things and test them again? Nivek Dev, thank you very much for the raid. Welcome in. How was your stream? No one should be stuck behind pre-rolls. Thank you to those watching ads to avoid that. What are we doing today? Skull snap. Oh, what's that? Small uploads with analog. Ah, nice. Nice. How's that going? Cool. So analog is a meta framework of Angular, right? Is it a meta framework? Is that the right word? Um, good, but it's way too hot in my room, so I stopped streaming. That I understand. Yeah, yeah, nice. Yeah, I use Angular for this project. I use Angular. I would not say I am good at the client side. Angular is not my strength, but it is the framework I'm most familiar with. So, um, um, yeah, Exocamil is a user of analog as well as a streamer. What are you building? Okay, so what I've been building for the past almost year now is an application for project management and planning. Think Jira, if you're aware of that. So The idea being that this is a planning focused component of the system. This is not stories. The idea is that this will capture, um, allow a PM to capture requirements, attach documents, add comments. This is a feature we just worked on the last couple of days, and it will track all the changes to these things. What sets this aside is this review date concept. A review date is a user managed date they set when this should be reviewed, and it helps them keep on top of where they are with their actual planning. So they can go into this item and change the review date, say, okay, well, no, it's actually going to be tomorrow. I want to do this. So when they change that, it should wake up, and now that moves down there. I've spent a long time working in tools like Jira and trying to get on top of requirements gathering and story planning and all those fun things. And I'm going to have a go at making my own way of doing that. So the end goal for this is that they would use this to plan out, here's what I want. It's kind of their wish list. And then sit with developers and go through these requirements and actually determine what are stories from this planning item, so that the PM themselves is not actually responsible for generating the stories. They're responsible for generating the requirements, and the stories can then be pulled from those requirements. So the long-term goal of this would be to be able to sit down, review these things with the devs and say, yeah, that's a story. Yep, that's a story. Oh, that belongs on that project. That belongs on that project. So these projects, even, these are what the PM thinks they're associated with. They might not actually be associated with those things 100%. And then they're able to assign those projects to those stories to actual teams that could work on that. So first phase is get the planning focused aspects in place, and then move beyond that to a few more. I swear, the dog, if the dog can find it, it will chew it. I have two dogs that love to play and chew things that I don't think they can get. So yeah, what I've been focused on today is this changes aspect. So right now, what happens is when you update a piece of data, it calculates the changes in a separate system. So the overall system is a little bit more complicated. So these are separate modules of the actual application. So if you update a planning item from the client, it goes through and goes to the planning system, updates the planning system, and then publishes out an integration event through Kafka. And Kafka then, the view consumes that data to display that information. Similarly, at the same time, changes pulls from that Kafka event and calculates the difference based upon the last event it saw and the current event, and calculates out, okay, here's what's changed. Which works. It does its job pretty well. You can see I can change the review date, I can change the assigned user, but this information is published as GUIDs and needs to be understood. And that's kind of what I'm focused on right now, is that enrichment piece is working right this second, but it won't work much longer. So I'm trying to figure out how to effectively delay calculating changes until I have all the information. Because in events that have, I think I saw one. Yeah. So requirements, if a requirement is added, right, this determined that there was no requirements and now there's one requirement. That's not useful, right? Because that's just from two here doesn't make much sense. So, and the GUID doesn't really carry very much information for the user. So, yeah. Yeah, this is using Angular and signal stores. Not sure I'm using signal stores 100% correctly. That's a whole different learning that I need to do. I think that I'm not really constructing them properly and leaning into their behavior well. But yeah. So yeah. Yeah. They're challenging so far, but I'm learning. I'm learning. Yeah. The general format of my stream is I'm happy to talk about the technologies. I'm happy to dig into things and show things. This code is not open source. It is something I'm treating as if I want to make a product one day. Maybe it does become a product. I don't know. But it is quite large and unwieldy, so it is not exactly ideal for open sourcing. Um, so um, that is that. So this uses well primarily .NET. Um, Mojo, have a great day. Thank you very much. See you later. Um, there's Akka, Kafka, MassTransit in here. So I'm using different, I'm using Service Bus and using Kafka. So I'm using a lot of different technologies in the back end. The system is distributed for good or bad. But it's been an opportunity to learn quite a lot of things along the way. So yeah. But yeah, if anybody has questions, if anybody has thoughts or opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to share. As long as it's constructive, I don't have any objections taking criticism, um, and I'm happy to discuss it. So what I'm trying to figure out, and actually, Trap, if you're still here, I think you're right in what you said earlier on. Um, I think I'm on the right path. Basically, what I need to do is determine whether this has got any requirements that are missing. If it does have missing requirements, I need to persist it and hold off. And that would just persist and then just quit because there's no point in carrying on. If it doesn't, then it needs to go through and do basically this stuff that it's doing now, right? So this stuff can move into its own piece, right? So enhancement and publishing could actually be separate, but we'll see. So what I need to do is introduce the piece where I say, okay, validate any missing requirements. And ultimately, it's almost the same as this, just in a verify versus resolve. Because ultimately, it's go through and get the list. Yeah. Yeah. Because I think if I don't have the information, I just need to store the event and say, now move on. If another copy of that event comes in, I need to clean up anything that's previously there. Because everything in here is now one event as well, because it's just well, it's one entity. It just has a type attached to it and then the fields because it doesn't really care. It's only this resolution. See, I don't think I need to go that complicated. I think using the actors does make a little sense though, because they are individual actions that can be done and describe the system a little easier. I think that's why I like Akka so far, is it's kind of descriptive of the process. If you break it up into useful pieces. But realistically, what I need to do is this. Do I have this thing for each for this information, and similarly do I have this thing for all this information? If I don't, if I can't say yes to any of these, then I have to pause this and move back. Colbert Gravy, by the way, thank you very much for the follow. I apologize, I missed that. Nivekdev, thank you very much once again for the raid. Much appreciated. Since storage is a little expensive, you probably want a single process for receiving the original message, then dispatch the actual work to a pool of actors, or if you care about ordering, a consistently accessible one is so it is ordered. Process for receiving the original message. Yeah, so with the changes, I mean, it's almost a similar pattern, right? So this process comes in, checks to see if it has the thing. If it doesn't, it calls create. If it does, it calls update. I'm doing the same sort of stuff. It's almost identical. The only difference is that it's not based upon the presence of this, it's based upon the validity of the data in the event. So this worked pretty well. Now, if I'm understanding it correctly, because of the way Akka's working there, when I receive this event, it is that actor, that those are all queued up in the same actor. So that does work in that same way, right? If I process the message, the event as my entry point, so rather than trying to do anything before I jump into the actors, start with a receiving actor that then says, okay, do I need to do something with this thing? Hand off this message, then that process will work. Because then the actual processing could be the pool. The actual go figure out the actual calculated changes, that could be the pooled set of actors. Yeah. The ordering doesn't necessarily matter because I will be able to determine whether I've seen this event or it supersedes. If I get two change events for the same planning item, they will likely contain different data with their own dates and stuff, so it doesn't really matter. No, I don't think ordering matters there. So let's do this. Am I confident that comments is working effectively? Adding a comment for the thing. I still need to do some learning on the signal store stuff because this stuff, yeah, there should only be one, at most one copy of the entity. But yeah, it would. So we'll get to that afterwards. So yeah, that's gonna bug me. But eventually I get around to that piece. Yeah, adding a comment for the thing. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else I need to do on this for right now? Comments are
in no way complete because there's still some learning I need to do on the signal store side of things because I need to react properly. For some reason, it doesn't display. I think I'm missing a change event there somehow. But I think that's as good as it's going to get for either second. That will actually show eventually it changes, I think. Yeah, comments. Right at the comment. I think comments are going to be ignored eventually. And the tonics, how you doing? How are things? I need my super busy week. That's going to be my next week. I've had a pretty chill week because I've had the week off to make a long weekend of it. I think so. Yeah, we got comments in this week. Talking right now about how to do the more detailed changes properly. But yeah, I think it's coming together. So I probably don't care about comments being added. That's not a change that you need to know about, right? Requirements. Again, I think some of these are interpreted as well. I think requirements are basically there was some requirements added, and there were some requirements removed, etc. I'm not sure about them because in terms of details, this is not going to be good for the changes. But yeah, let's get this GitHub liquid sky. We'll have to do a brainstorm on an actual name for a product at some point, and then we can get rid of that liquid sky banner up on everything trap. Yeah, so let's do pull requests. New pull request. No. Okay, let's create a pull request there. So last weekend we broke up the project a little bit, so now there is some external dependencies here. So the core components, the shared library components, live in a separate repo now named Foundation. This is so we can create an actual management backend that's not part of the application code stack. But it does mean that when I change events and stuff, I need to make pull requests against two things. Startup Versal. Unreal introduced me to visual coding. Is there something like this for normal coding outside of game dev? It'd be an awesome way to learn for beginners, introduce them to programming. So there are things like Scratch. It's a little simplistic. I'm not sure you're going to build very much, but in terms of visual coding, Scratch is pretty much the first one that comes to mind. So similar to blueprints, you kind of create processes by dragging and dropping and tying them together. Most fail to catch them because they're too simplistic. Yeah. So Scratch is the first one that comes to mind when I think of that style of plug and play programming. I
don't know of any others that I would say are useful. Yeah, I've been developing for long enough that those sorts of tools aren't something I go hunting down. Um, are you trying to learn how to get into development, or are you trying to just research that for other people? Low code. That is that the term now? Like, I think the Scratch for introducing people to for introducing beginners to programming, Scratch has become kind of one of those tools. Um, I tried Blueprints visuals until some days ago. Ah, gotcha. Okay. Blueprints are powerful in Unreal. I feel though that Epic have kind of pushed a lot towards blueprints rather than actual code. Um, but there are some things that don't work, and you get more control of using the actual code, and but then joining the two worlds together sometimes felt very difficult. Um, from what from from what basic Unreal Engine stuff I did, it felt difficult. But yeah, blueprints are pretty nice in terms of being able to just describe the system. Sorry, I'm scrolling through this and reading it. I want to get this committed so that it's done and ready, and then I don't make any mess of new code. So that's the comments display. That's working. Comments component is its own thing. The review window, we fixed the bug in the review window. Added a lot more modules apparently. Oh, because I removed some things. So some things were standalone previously, and I actually put them back into modules or vice versa. Included a lot of controls. The comments feature, this is for the store. That's the actual planning item comment description. That's saying the comments exist on the planning item. Again, I still feel that this is heavy on the client side. But again, I've got to get my head around how to write effective signal stores. Add comment for planning item, fetch comments. Yeah, yeah. Credited the component. Got the see more component for the text. Manoj, thank you very much for that recommendation. Comments on planning item. So we have the actions and the queries. The publish of the integration event. Comment. The reason I do like using Kafka so much here, and the reason I'm everything gets published, everything there's nothing. I'm not making anything simple on myself by saying, okay, well, I've got this thing, I know the data, I've got the data. Let's just, here's show what's different. I could have made this a lot simpler. The code base would have been a lot heavier if I just made this a simple single web application with code and code behind in a database. There'd be a lot of things going on here. The reason I like using Kafka so much here is because I can just publish this information and do what I want with it later on. I don't actually have to deal with too much. And if I need to build something else off of this thing, I don't have to worry about that use case right this second. I can just publish this data and use it in the cases I do know. But then if I need that data again, I can do something. So like the changes calculation is broken out from the actual planning save because all I care about is saving the planning item. The public information I publish from there is what I want to diff on. I don't want to diff on any internal fields or anything like that. I don't want to put any special ignores in there. I just want to publish that information. we rename spaced a whole ton of stuff. So I do like using Kafka in this respect, and it is helping me, I believe, build a more robust system. But it does mean things like these changes are a little bit more complicated. There's the views. That's the GraphQL endpoint for the comments. We got a basic unit test on commenting, all the namespacing changes. Dereference. Yeah, you're gonna keep complaining about that. I'm either gonna have to put some rules in place or, yeah. Okay, so we will create this pull request on Foundation. This is a simple change to add a integration event and add that onto the planning item integration event. Squash and merge. Confirm squash and merge. And then squash and merge. Confirm squash and merge. Delete the branch. Delete the branch. Okay, so comments are now a component. Check out development. I like this workflow of repositories inside of Rider is pretty nice. So I'm in the Liquid Sky project, but I can actually, I've added the Foundation project because I'm actually so that's that. But yeah, I can keep the projects in line there. So now update that. Does that not let me do that? Oh yeah, it does. There you go. Because it was working on that one. We'll go through warnings at some point, I promise. Most of them are ridiculous. That's interesting to let me do all that without actually complaining that it was still running. I don't think I'm going to get much achieved here other than some basic planning, but I wanted to make sure those were done first. The pipelines, the way I'm seeing it right this second is this process update needs to basically be become an actor that will invoke kind of tempted to make these. I'm torn whether I make these pull double duty, being that they know everything they need to know about the data, or whether I have two processes that look almost identical. Because basically it's the same thing, right? Is do I care about these changes? Yes, I do. Okay. Do I have enough information is the only other question. And if I don't, then this entity has to get paused and saved to the database or whatever storage. I'm going to use Mongo because it's going to be easier to do it that way. And all I'm doing is I'm actually saving the change details. But I don't even need to do that if I just pass through the event. So we'll just pass through the event. In this case, this is a new entity. I've got this in here, but I don't think I need to do very much in the terms of the new because the new doesn't have any changes. It just is a blank entry of changes. That's what indicates it's new.
There's no difference whatsoever. And new is relative to the system consuming it, so it doesn't really hurt anything. But if I pass forward the integration event, the change event here, this change event is everything it needs to know, right? So it has the differences, it has all its data is in there. So if I persist that change event, then the processor. So this, if this shifts to be an actor that just processes the planning items, so this would be single queued. Anyway, it hands off to something like what's in the process here, because all this is doing is saying, okay, through the changes, do I have a resolver for those changes? If I do, resolve those changes. All I'm saying is, instead of doing that, I need to say it's almost the identical thing. It's just if any of this returns null. All I'm doing is checking it exists here. And that's going to be most of the pattern is mostly, do I have the thing I need? Sorry, just distracted with something else there. It's frustrating because it's almost exactly what I need already. The difference is if I get a null back, or I need something to say, okay, well, you can't actually resolve all the things you need, therefore you can't proceed. So it's kind of like I need a can resolve versus a resolve, right? So if this is resolve, what does this look like? Public async task or can resolve string name, object before, object after. These are yeah, it's wow, it's actually so the problem is in this instance, it's not quite what I want to do because if you can't resolve them, it's going to be empty, right? So if I have
Fetch projects. Yeah, it's not quite the same. Because it's almost the same as this. The only difference is this is for can resolve projects, return false. That's that will come back on. var. So this one is var projects equals that. Project IDs. And then this is return projects dot count equals project IDs dot length. Yes. So if we've found them all, then this project is going to be the same. Seems a little heavy-handed, but it would do that. And then instead of this, we'd do var can resolve before, resolve after, return both of them. So then in here, it would be that. No, no, this is good. I'm not sold yet. We'll see. Can resolve if right. Ugh. So for each change type, because these don't matter. These shouldn't hold the thing up. The only difference is this one would now say, okay, well, if we can't do that, right? If we flip it, if we can't do this, we actually need to persist this change event and quit. Well, my question is, when do I resume this? How do I do that? Right? Do I track? Like, is can resolve enough? I don't know if it is. Yeah, that's just this one's similar. Public for can let's just implement the interface. Can resolve. I mean, again, it's this, right? If before user is not and is and after user is okay. That's cool that it does that. So I don't need to adapt the information. I just need to say, can I resolve it? Right. And if it's not, if it can't resolve the information, then we need to say, hold on, let's wait. But the problem will be, what will be the triggering event to now resume this process, right? If I persist this information, what is the triggering event? Do I say every time I get a new object, I go and test to see if anything else can be resolved, which means I'm then going through and querying all this information again. It's kind of expensive. And if it backs up, that's not really solid. But is that a good first pass? Does that give me enough information? Like I could watch that. I could put metrics in place to understand the cost of doing that. I could also put in metrics to understand how often this is happening. This is something that I think instrumentation would be a very key fact, a key element of this component overall. So this processor remains the same. It's just how it's called, how it's injected. Yeah, that's that. So let's yeah. So the reason I'm focusing on this part right this second is because I think this is a key component I want to get solved and in place and confident so that then I can start adding in those extra changes and then start building out. Because the next piece on the UI side of things, I'm not going to click anything, is the status. So I need to introduce the ability to understand the status of the actual item because again, right now these have no completion. They have do we have all the information we need? Do we do that? Because what I want to move towards is dog food in this, right? I want to be able to say, hey, we're going to use this to build this, and that's going to be challenging. So yeah, but I think for right now that is going to be that. See how far through he is. Oh, he's almost done. Done. Written out. Okay. So let's go. Let's go right into Monospace Mentor. He does an AMA on Fridays. I apologize for not getting very much done today. I'm just trying to I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to understand how to move forward with the project. Also stabilizing the pieces I do have so that I'm not moving too fast. Because if I had a load more features, this gets more complicated, right? And if I don't have the right patterns in place, this becomes more of a risk. So I need the right pieces in place. So we're gonna add in so starting on Monday, we're gonna add in the extra pieces for this. Gonna break out some Akka components. I think Akka using the actors will help me break this up a little bit more. I could probably put the resolve piece outside of this so I can actually represent that process a little bit more cleanly. Maybe. But yeah, let's go with that for now. So let's go raid Monospace Mentor. If you are interested in .NET content, etc., Fridays on One Liner Stream are shout one. I actually tried to shout one line. Fridays on One Line Stream are community days, so it's a great place to chat, to talk about stuff as well as see other smart developers. And I wish I could shout out more people. Trap, Magnetonics. I I need to get my bot back in place so that when you guys join the stream and chat, it automatically does the shout outs. I used to have that in place where it would tell people when you join the stream. Also, I want to get developers.stream up. So anyway, let's go raid into Monospace Mentor. I will be back again on Monday with more. If there's game streams, check out the Discord if you're interested in watching some of the game streams. They would be on my other channel. And yeah, I will see everyone again soon. And if I can actually figure out how to raid, that'd be awesome. There you go. So on Fridays, he does an AMA and it looks like he just got raided. Yes, he did. By Hey Andrus. So we're joining a good time. Take care all. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.